Greetings and love all. This is Cody ChesnuTT live in Manchester, and you're listening to Groovement.
Cody ChesnuTT is here. How you doing, man?
Doing great, doing great.
Great
Here in Manchester. Yeah, same here.
Freezing?
Yeah. Much colder than it was in, we're in London, Shepherd's Bush.
Oh, okay. Well, London was warm.
Warmer than this.
Okay, yeah. That's the stereotype.
Yeah.
Is that up north it's cold?
At least it's not raining.
It's not raining.
Because I heard that was part of the Manchester stereotype as well.
You're a very lucky man.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll freeze before it comes down. So it's been a couple of months since Landing on 100 came out. How the response has been?
It's been great. The strongest response has been live. You know, playing the music out every night. I get a chance to really see how the music is connecting with the people. And afterwards, you know, the merch table, you know, gets a lot of attention. You know, people buying CDs and albums. Believe it or not, we sell more vinyl than we do CDs.
I was just going to ask you, Killer Mike was over recently, and he'd sold out of all his merch before he got here. So the merch must be, I mean, people love the up close and personal, don't they?
Yeah, to me, it's the new way, you know.
Have you got any vinyl left?
We have a few. I think we have one of our last boxes left. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be getting one tonight.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Excellent. So in terms of, you know, seeing audience reactions and that, obviously this was funded through a Kickstarter. So do you feel like it's not just your body of work? You've had a lot of contribution from people already, or does it feel? Does your ownership remain yours?
Creatively, the ownership is always there, you know. But in terms of how to, you know, release it to the people, it's definitely been a joint effort. You know, I'm very appreciative of the Kickstarter supporters. You know, I started out funding it, you know, out of pocket, so they definitely made it possible for us to finish things up and get it out to the market for sure.
But did the idea come from yourself, or was it suggested?
It was from my manager, actually. She suggested it. You know, I'd heard about Kickstarter maybe eight months prior to it. A friend of mine actually wanted to. She did. She started her own business, selling Lebanese food, and she wanted a truck, you know, to sell it at different venues at night. And she was able to fund the project, so I thought it was a really cool thing. Then I kind of put it on the back burner, and then my manager brought it to my attention. She was like, "Well, you know, why don't we explore the Kickstarter thing?" So I was open-minded to it because I knew there were a lot of different new models and getting music out, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
You were saying, obviously, you've got vinyl, you know, to sell at the merch store, so you've obviously had the vinyl pressed up.
Yeah.
How do you find that to sort of 10 years ago, you know, with the first album? Is it a completely different market, or are there still comparisons to be drawn, you know, when you're actually selling the product?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of comparisons still, you know. We sold some things at the shows then, but now, you know, artists, I believe, depend on the live shows and merch even more so now. 10 years ago, and even now, you know, we had a licensing partner. We licensed the record to a couple of people. But now it's really about the artists, you know, grinding as much as possible, you know, in the live shows and finding different ways to create different revenue streams.
Do you find that, have you got a hectic tour schedule, you know, in the lead up to the album and after, or?
Yeah, it's been pretty hectic. You know, this was the most hectic. We've been out now maybe four and a half weeks.
Okay.
We started out in Scandinavia and just kind of plowing away at it.
Is it cold?
It's very cold, yeah. But beautiful at the same time, you know. But it's been a pretty long trek. We were actually on tour 13 cities before we came over to Europe, actually. We took a week off and then started off in Finland.
So have you been places that you haven't visited before?
Yes. I'd never been to Spain. I'd never been to Sweden. And I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot in interviews about, obviously, the gap between albums, so I don't really want to sort of go over that again, but did you actually get any recording and writing done in that decade? And what happened to those things? Did they just sort of go in a notebook, or was the album made up of ideas from?
Yeah, the album itself is, you know, just ideas that came through the years.
Okay.
You know, it really didn't take shape until like maybe 4.5, 5 years ago.
Right.
But you know, during that time period, I would have different concepts or different topics I wanted to address, but not quite sure how to approach it. And I just gave myself some room to receive the necessary information, you know, to kind of put it all together. And about, you know, 4.5, 5 years ago, the the layout began to make sense, and the cohesiveness, all of that started to reveal itself. And then, popped it out in the studio in 2011.
And you recorded that in Memphis?
Right, the basic tracks we did in Memphis, Tennessee, and then I did vocals and overdubs in Cologne, Germany, mixed it there as well, and I tracked the strings in London.
Okay, so the core, strings apart, the core members of the band, are they people you brought on tour with you, or have you got session musicians?
Yes. The people that actually played on the record.
Friends.
No, the people that played on the record are the actual band that plays with me on tour.
Okay. Yeah. So they're friends of yours.
We've become friends now. Yes.
Did you only get to know them through the recording?
No. We played. Let's see, our first show, I think in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, I met the drummer. Our children attended the same school.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And then after that, it was just, people knowing other people. Like I know a guitar player, I know a sax player, that kind of thing. So it was a really tight little community. Yeah. And it came together in a very organic way. But now we've all become, mates, as you guys would say.
Yeah. We would, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking you started off with drums and piano when you were little?
Exactly.
First instruments?
Yeah, drums first. Okay. And then I graduated to piano like maybe around 7 or 8 years old. Okay. Yeah.
Are they your favorite? Were they ever your favorite?
The drums is always my favorite because that locks me into the most important element, which is the rhythm. But now I think I favor guitar more than piano because I find myself around the guitar a little faster when I'm writing. But I enjoy playing the piano as well. Once I learn the song, I still enjoy how it makes me feel.
Do you see the guitar as more of an animal almost because you can control it and it's right in you, or is it?
Yeah, no, I can just I can find the chords easy. Okay. With piano, I have to really think about the placement of my fingers. As with the guitar, I can just kind of go straight to what I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you cross? I know One Little Indian, obviously from Björk, years ago, and I think Skunk and Nancy at one point as well. How did you come across those guys and releasing with them?
Well, my cousin, who was my partner at the time, that I worked with to release the Headphone Masterpiece on a label called Ready, Set, Go, he established a relationship with Derek. I forget his last name, but the owner of One Little Indian. They were interested in the project, and I guess they reached out and connected that way. And over the years, after the Headphone Masterpiece, he would kind of shoot me an email from time to time and ask me what I was working on, and to give him a buzz if I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
And so he heard that we were going to release Landing on 100, and he was interested in it, and he reached out and we made it happen again.
Okay. And do you find yourself in all the sort of generations of your releases and your music writing? You've written for Death Row, you had your Headphone Masterpiece out. Is this the most in control that you felt over your music?
I've always felt in control because that was one of the things I sought after from the beginning. After hearing so many horror stories about artists not having creative control, being shaped by the industry, and not really having a voice, I wanted to make sure I wrote songs that I really connected with. And that really reflected what I wanted to do creatively, and I've grown in the process, but I've always felt, in control of it. But that control has matured a bit, up until now, Landing on 100.
And what do you have a follow-up plan, for the coming years in terms of releasing music or recording, or is it just like live for the now sort of thing?
Well, I'm definitely focused on this project, but I have a few ideas that I really like that could take shape into an album in about maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. Look forward to it.
Yeah, so am I.
Do you keep an ear on the Atlanta scene? Is there time for you to keep up with stuff?
I kind of peek out every now and again, but I don't get off into it too much. But I know there's a lot of, underground acts bubbling up. A lot of people are trying to get back to the more soulful elements of music. But I couldn't name you 5 artists right now, out of Atlanta that's breaking the scene. But I'm sure there are some.
I saw you on Dave Chappelle's Block Party as a film, and I sometimes use that film as for people that aren't into sort of soul and hip hop and that sort of scene.
Right.
Sometimes that film's quite an accessible way into sort of explaining sort of a movement, what I consider to be
sure,
a movement of lots
of
people. Even the beginnings of Kanye and that sort of thing for people that weren't familiar. Do you see that film as a turning point for anything, either in terms of film or music, or is it just sort of something fun that is there to be?
I saw it as a huge cultural turning point. It was great to see all of that talent come together and kind of just capture what probably was the pinnacle of Neosoul and that whole thing. I think that was probably the tip of it right there before things shifted into what we're experiencing right now. So I think it's a beautiful moment that was, it crystallized, the real spirit of that last movement that happened, and I'm really thankful I was a part of it, because it feels historic to me for sure.
It's got there's so much soul in it, but it's got just a good vibe.
The spirit, once again, when you look at that and listen to it, and you compare what's in the market right now, it's like night and day in terms of just the feeling you get, even, you mentioned, the early part of Kanye's career. The whole was just a different vibe altogether, and
but also the grassroots thing, the whole Ohio mission and the brass band and everything.
Yeah.
There's so many levels to the film. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it just felt good. You know what I mean? And that's the key element I think that's been missing in a lot of the music and in the art. The feeling. It's been catchy and the sonically the beats have been cool and tricky and creative, but but it's nothing without the feeling. And I think that's what we're trying to get back to now. Just the feeling of it.
And do you think that community still exists to a point? Obviously people know each other, but I guess with any family, some people write less, some people email less. Is there still a solid?
I believe it is, but as you say with the family, different members of the family grow in different ways and mature at different points in times, you know what I mean? But I think if enough of the family members shine, it will inspire the other family members to kind of get back on track and like, oh, okay, I kind of lost my way for a minute, but I'm centered again, I'm focused again. So I think it's still there, It's just a matter of everybody arriving at that certain point in their life, to realize, okay, well, I think I need to, shift here a little bit or mature here. Yeah.
Okay. Have you visited Manchester before?
Very briefly, I came here for, I think, a quick promo spot, maybe October, November.
What do you know of Manchester?
The most famous thing I know are the Gallagher brothers. That's pretty much it, man. It's a huge football city. Yeah.
It's a good crowd, good music crowd.
Yeah.
I think it's gone up and down, but like you say, with the Neosoul movement, I think any music scene, I think hip hop and soul are coming back a little bit now in the last couple of years. There was a good time when it just wasn't there. I think people tried to reclaim it. A lot of the young MCs look back to A Tribe Called Quest rather than 50 Cent. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. It's like water, man. Your body can only go without it for so long. And that's why there's a generation reaching back now, because it's you can't survive off the vibe of 2 Chainz and that whole thing, for too long. You just need something to touch your soul a bit more.
And of course they've reformed now.
Yeah.
They're playing a couple of dates, so look forward to that as well. Cody ChesnuTT, have a great show tonight.
Yeah.
Can we expect a journey through the years, or is it new material mostly?
No, this is all new material, The energy, as I explain to people every night, because I know some people come expecting to hear the older material, just the energy on this album is completely different, And as a man, as an artist, as a father, I'm really trying to work on my consistency, And I don't want to mix up the two, because I think then it'll become a bit of a distraction.
You mentioned before we were recording that you can play this album in front of children. Did you have your children in mind when you were making the music?
Well, I had the whole thing in mind. I would like to, make music that the family, could enjoy the same way I enjoyed the great records of the 70s,
Yeah.
And I felt, well, if I'm giving my children the best, then I should give everyone my best, Yeah. And so that's really been one of the huge motivating factors for me to stay focused on what I'm doing, because now people come up after shows and say, well, I played this the song around the house all day long and my children loved it. You say you played it for the children,
That's
so
right.
to me, I believe art at its best should be exposed to children and adults alike, and that it should definitely inform the community equally, regardless of the age range.
Yeah, definitely. Wise words, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks. Thank
Have
you.
a great show tonight. Enjoy Manchester.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I was a dead man. I was asleep. I was a stranger in a foreign